Hello world, this is Random Fix, and in this video today I'm going to show you how to set your drive monitors for your Mitsubishi. And this is very simple. All you need is a little OBD2 reader like this, so I'll have a link to this in the video box down below. And you're going to go ahead and connect this OBD2 reader to your port, which is located on your Mitsubishi, most of the time in the driver's side wheel well area. And if you look underneath, and on this vehicle, the connector is right here, right above the gas pedal, and the OBD2 reader only goes in one way. It just slides on, and as soon as you plug it in, it has power. And the most important thing you want to do when you're doing a drive cycle and checking for monitors is you want to grab the key, put it in the ignition. You want to make sure that the ignition is on, so the check engine light is on. However, the motor is actually not running. And now you can go in here, and using your OBD2 reader you can come and check the monitors. And on this vehicle, this has an IM monitors, which stands for inspection monitors. I can hit this one button and it will give me the status. The whole idea with the drive cycle is kind of like whack-the-mole. You want to get as many monitors ready as possible. And in certain states, you don't need all your monitors ready, so always check with your local state authority. But in this video today, I'm going to show you how to set all the monitors. Welcome to Random Fix. On this video, I'm going to be showing you how to go ahead and complete a drive cycle on your Mitsubishi vehicle. And if you want additional help, please check out the Smog Tips playlist. And right here on the Smog Tips playlist, you'll actually find the drive cycle video. And if you want to understand the drive cycle monitors a little bit more, check out the video titled What to Do to Smog a Car, and I'm going to have them in the video description down below as well. So this drive cycle video is going to be for Mitsubishi vehicles 1996 and newer. So here's some technical parameters that we got to go ahead and cover. So most of the times when you're trying to complete a drive cycle, just usual driving for a couple of days will set the monitors, as long as there is no fault code in the system. And before you start your drive cycle, you want to make sure that you have between 25 to 75% gas in the gas tank and park on a level surface overnight so the vehicle is cold. And to better understand the drive cycle procedure, we need to understand some basic vocabulary here for the 1996 and newer Mitsubishis. So the very first thing is this term right here, which is OBD2. Basically, this stands for Onboard Diagnostics Type 2. And this started in 1996. And before 1996, every vehicle manufacturer had their own plug, and the whole thing was a mess. So this is actually a good thing when they came out with this OBD2 protocol here. When you get a trouble code for your vehicle, that trouble code is referred to as a DTC, or diagnostic trouble code. And then there's pending codes, and then there's hard set codes. A pending code is one which the computer has detected the issue. However, it needs more information to go ahead and make it a hard set code to trigger the check engine light. And a hard set code is one where it already went ahead and triggered the code, and it knows that there's some issue with the vehicle. And certain hard set codes that are a result of damaged wiring will basically get triggered the second the key turns on. So if this is happening to you, you may want to go ahead and do further investigations into the actual cause, because even if you do the drive cycle correctly, if you have a hard set code this will not help you pass your drive cycle emissions test. An MIL is a malfunction indicator light, also known as a check engine light, service engine light, service engine soon light. When you're using an OBD2 scanner that I showed you guys earlier in the video, when it says OK, that basically means that monitor is complete, set, and ready. These all mean the same exact thing. If you see the word INC, this means it's incomplete, unset, and not ready. And if you happen to have a monitor that says NA, this means it does not apply. So go ahead and skip that monitor for your vehicle. There is an O2 sensor, and an O2 sensor is an oxygen sensor. And on most vehicles, there's going to be at least two. And some vehicles will have a few more, which I'll show you later on in the video. There is a pre-cat O2 sensor. This pre-cat O2 sensor is also known as the upstream O2 sensor. And there's one after the catalytic converter that's called a post-cat or downstream O2 sensor. And to help the O2 sensors get heated up faster so they could do a better job of controlling the emissions, O2 sensors may include heaters built into them. So basically, they help the oxygen sensor get up to speed faster. Your vehicle is going to be equipped with the EGR. This stands for exhaust gas recirculation. And when you're looking at a scan tool and you see the word CAT, and some people refer to these as CATs because some vehicles can have more than one catalytic converter. This is the catalyst, and the catalytic converter is the part, and the CAT is the monitor on the scan tool. An EVAP is the evaporative emissions control system, and basically this keeps the gas fumes out of the atmosphere. And here's a pro tip: when you're doing this test, try to use a stopwatch during the test so you can do a better job of completing it the way it's supposed to be done. So this is the actual Mitsubishi drive cycle. In this case, I'm using a Mitsubishi Eclipse. So you want to make sure you start off with a cold vehicle. And with a cold vehicle, go ahead and turn the ignition off at least 1 hour. And it's better to leave this on overnight. And make sure that you have the gas between 1/4 to 3/4 full. The engine coolant temperature must be below 122 degrees, and the air outside has to be within 11 degrees of the coolant temperature. Go ahead and start the vehicle now, and you want to let the vehicle idle for 2.5 minutes. Do not drive it. So go ahead and turn off all the accessories as well. Put the vehicle in drive while pressing the brake pedal and hold for 15 seconds. Put the vehicle in park. Turn the ignition to the off position. Repeat this once. The ECU will now run the oxygen sensor heater test and the evap purge no flow test. And again, this step right here is very important because if the oxygen sensor is not able to get ready, a lot of the other tests will not be able to get completed. Step 3, you want to go ahead and start the vehicle again. Turn off all the accessories and begin to drive. Apply basically half throttle until you get to 55 miles an hour. And the ECU will now go ahead and check the evap. And when a vehicle is looking and testing the evap system, you want to try to avoid doing sudden lane changes and making sharp turns or corners because you want the fuel in the back not to gush around. Step 4, hold your speed steady at 55 miles an hour for 5 minutes. And during this time, the O2 sensor is basically going to be tested, the air intrusion system, the EGR flow, and the purge flow, misfire, fuel trim, diagnostics will all be performed. Step 5, I call this the coasting phase. You want to basically take your foot off the gas pedal, but don't touch the brake and do not shift in order to slow down. So keep everything the way it is. Just remove your foot off the gas pedal. And it is very important that you let the vehicle slow down to under 10 miles an hour. And this will allow the engine control unit to basically, again, test the EGR, the Evap, and look for long-term fuel trims. Step 6, you want to go ahead and accelerate again to 55 to 60 miles an hour. This time, you're going to be a little bit heavier on the throttle, so about 75%. And this will perform the same steps as in the first acceleration. Step 7, you want to go ahead and hold your speed steady again for 2 minutes at 55 miles an hour. And this will check the catalytic converter monitor. And step 8, go ahead and decelerate. And basically, again, you're going to take your foot off the gas pedal and you're going to let the vehicle slow down to under 10 miles an hour without touching the brake or shifting gears. And when you're done with step 8, you want to pull over, turn the vehicle off, use your OBD2 reader. And when you get back from your drive cycle again, reconnect the OBD2 reader, scan it to see which monitors are ready. And if anything's unset, only focus on the unset monitors. And if you have an unset monitor, I'm going to cover each one of these monitors with you now on how to get those ready in case you do come across one. So the very first monitor that we're going to be talking about right now is going to be the oxygen sensor. And to get the oxygen sensor ready, you want to go ahead and start the engine. Let the vehicle idle until the coolant reaches 180 degrees Fahrenheit and drive at 40 miles an hour. And make sure that the engine load is between 25 to 60%. And to make sure that you're reaching the right temperature here for your engine, the word here is at least. So you're better off letting the vehicle warm up a little bit more than needed versus not reaching a desired temperature of 180 and then trying to perform it, because that won't actually help you out, especially if you're in the colder temperatures. For the purge flow, when the vehicle is warmed up, idle for at least 5 minutes in park with all electrical loads turned off. So your defrost is going to be off, your radio is going to be off, your lights, AC. And lastly, you want to make sure that the steering wheel is centered. For the EGR, you want to make sure that the engine coolant temperature is at least 180 degrees and there's no diagnostic trouble codes. So you may have to scan your vehicle to make sure nothing's pending. Drive 40 miles an hour with engine speeds of 2000 RPM or less for 2 minutes. So you may have to turn your overdrive on or off to make sure that this number of 2000 RPM here is achieved. And if you have a manual transmission vehicle, you may want to shift up to a higher gear to get your RPMs lower. Step number 2 for the EGR, you want to coast to under 20 miles an hour, preferably 10 miles an hour. When you're at 40 miles an hour, you want to take your foot off the gas pedal and coast without touching the brake or shifting gears. And for this to actually work, you may sometimes have to do this a total of 8 times to get this EGR monitor set. So find yourself a nice quiet street and keep doing this at least 8 times to get this EGR monitor ready. For the Catalyst, you want to go ahead and drive to 60 miles an hour for 2 minutes. And once you get to 60 miles an hour and you've done your 2 minutes, you want to take your foot off the gas pedal, reduce speeds down to 40 miles an hour, and maintain that speed for 2 minutes. And it's very important that your speed doesn't fluctuate up and down, and your speed does not go under 36 miles an hour, as it'll cancel the monitor test for the catalyst. And so I highly suggest trying it with overdrive on and off to complete the catalyst monitor. And if your evap is having a hard time setting, you want to make sure that the evap test is run within the first 16 minutes. So you want to start the vehicle when it's dead cold. The outside temperature needs to be between 41 and 86. And make sure your overdrive is on. Your fuel level should be between 30 to 100%. 100% is recommended. If you're having a hard time with your evap monitor, start the vehicle. And as soon as the vehicle starts, you basically want to start driving immediately on flat ground. So avoid any hills, avoid sudden turns, stops, accelerations, hard corners, and the fuel cannot slosh around in the back. And by doing it this way, your evap monitor is going to get ready. And if you've done all that, congratulations, your vehicle is ready to get smogged. And if your vehicle is a 96 through 99 vehicle, you will basically need to get tested on the dyno at 15 to 25 miles an hour with a gas analyzer. They're going to test your gas cap, and they're also going to do a visual test. And even if your vehicle is 2000 and newer, you're still going to have to do a visual test, because every vehicle is basically required to do a visual test. And a visual test is basically the technician checking to make sure you don't have any altered parts on your vehicle, like intakes, throttle spacers, and you don't have any cracked vacuum hoses, missing catalytic converters, and that you're not blowing a bunch of smoke out the tailpipe. And here's the current rules here for California right now. And if you have a 96 through 99 vehicle, you can basically have one monitor that is incomplete. And 2000 and newer vehicles, only the evap can be incomplete. However, what I can say is, in California, a lot of smog technicians will not pass your vehicle and even attempt to do the test if they can go ahead and verify that your evap is incomplete, because it basically counts against their technician license records or the shop's records. So if you're running across this, you may want to go to a different smog shop, as a vehicle with an incomplete evap monitor is allowed to be able to pass. It just really depends on the shop. For diesel powered vehicles 98 to 2006, basically all the monitors have to be ready. And for newer diesel vehicles 2007 and newer, you can have up to 2 monitors that say incomplete. Normally, the smog is the seller's responsibility, so make sure that you always provide the buyer with the smog when you're selling a vehicle. And if you're a buyer, make sure all the inspection monitors on the OBD2 scanner are ready before you buy a vehicle, because 99% of the times, if the monitor is not ready, it's because a seller or a dealer has reset the check engine light in order to cover up an existing condition or problem. And 100% of the time, it can be caused by a dead or weak battery. However, you still need to figure out why that battery is dying, because the newer vehicles really rely on the battery. And here's the order that the monitors normally set in. So the oxygen sensor heater is first to set, then the oxygen sensor, then you have the EGR, they have the Catalyst Monitor, and the last monitor to normally set is the evap. And here's a diagram I have. So on a 4-cylinder vehicle, normally there's 2 oxygen sensors and 1 catalytic converter. So in this vehicle right here, we can see this is the engine block. And when the exhaust comes out the engine here, it goes around, goes down the manifolds and past the first oxygen sensor. This is known as the upstream oxygen sensor or the pre-cat oxygen sensor. And after that, it'll go through the catalytic converter here. And after the catalytic converter, you'll have the downstream oxygen sensor or the post-oxygen sensor. And basically, these two oxygen sensors work together to verify the efficiency of the catalytic converter here. And if you guys are running into problems of catalytic converters, these parts are very, very expensive here. So I'll have a video down below on where you can actually get a catalytic converter for cheap, dirt cheap actually. So check that out. And after the exhaust passes by the downstream oxygen sensor, it goes through these resonators here, down through the tailpipe here, through the muffler, and out to the atmosphere. And on a 6-cylinder vehicle, you can have 3 or 4 oxygen sensors. You could have 1 or 2 catalytic converters. Here's a V6 motor, and a V6 motor basically is 3 cylinders on one side, 3 cylinders on the other side. So whichever side cylinder number 1 is called bank 1, and the opposite side is called bank 2. So if you're running into an issue and it tells you that the bank 2 sensor 1 is bad, it's letting you know that in this case, this oxygen sensor here is the one you want to investigate. So we have 2 oxygen sensors here, a third one right past the catalytic converter. And in this example over here, we actually have something a little different. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 oxygen sensors and 2 catalytic converters. And this too is a V6 motor because we have 3 cylinders on one side and 3 cylinders on the other side. And here's my top tips for passing an emissions test. And if you guys comment down below, I'll be more than happy to help you out. Tip number 1, make sure your vehicle is running right the very first time, because a failed emissions test gets reported to Carfax and AutoCheck, and this can actually lower your vehicle's value. Tip number 2, make sure that the check engine light is working, but it should be off, but it should be working. So when you're buying a vehicle, put the key in the ignition, turn the ignition on with the motor off, and verify that the check engine light is actually there. Tip number 3, which is really important for vehicles 96 through 99, inflate your tires properly, because this will lessen the load on the vehicle as it's getting tested on the dyno. Tip number 4, which is really helpful for 96 through 99 vehicles, you want to make sure that you do a fresh oil change before the test, because it lowers the hydrocarbons and allows for better operation. Tip number 5, you want to go ahead and drive your vehicle at least 20 minutes prior to arriving at the smog station. And when you get to the smog station, you want to try to leave the vehicle on, especially on those 96 through 99 vehicles, as this will keep the components nice and hot and you may get better results. Tip number 6, use fuel additives whenever possible if needed. I personally love the Lucas Oil upper cylinder lube, which I'll have a link down below. And this basically cleans your injectors and keeps your vehicle in better running condition. Tip number 7, avoid wet weather. And this is not to say that your vehicle will not pass on a dyno if it's needed on a 96 through 99 vehicle. However, you'll just get better results if the tires are not wet. Tip number 8, do not disconnect the battery unless you have a battery saver device set up, and these are about $15. Basically, it keeps your vehicle's data, so you don't have to go through this whole drive cycle, because this can be very time consuming, and I've seen people use up hundreds of dollars of gas just to get a vehicle ready to pass an emissions test, essentially almost creating more emissions. to go past an emissions test. And remember, oftentimes the only real solution is to repair or replace the component. So there is no such thing as a miracle cure in a bottle, but there are some treatments out there that are effective. If you just need to get past this one test right now, and check those out in the video description box below. And my last thing that I want to leave you guys with is, if you could do your preventive maintenance, do the easy repairs like the engine oil changes, transmission fluid changes, differential, change your filters like the air, cabin, fuel, clean your throttle body, wiper blades, brakes. When you start doing this kind of stuff, you're going to learn so much more about the vehicle. You're going to have a better experience as an owner. And by doing your own repairs, you're going to get more confidence, which is going to allow you to basically take on better and harder challenges down the line, which could basically save you even more money. Because personally, I can do my oil change in under 15 minutes. And not only do I save about 80, 90 bucks, but I save myself the agony of sitting around at a dealership for an hour and a half waiting for somebody else to change my oil when I could have done it in 15 minutes at home. And it's so easy. So check those videos down below if you guys are interested in maybe doing your own oil change on your Mitsubishi vehicle. And if the video is helpful, please comment down below, and I really appreciate you guys watching. And if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure you guys hit that subscribe button right there. Smash on the notification button as well. So next time I post a video that's aimed to save you time and money, that you guys will get notified. Have a great day.